Welcome to episode 339 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name is John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody here at the Game Deflators Podcast. We like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we get by with a little help from our friend in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
So this week we played a little bit of Chibi Robo on the GameCube. I was pleasantly surprised on this one. Just a little bit, yeah. It was pretty good. We'll talk about in our Inflation Deflation segment for the week, but what else are we covering today?
So this week we are going to talk about the highest rated game in history and then the best-selling Magic set we've ever seen in this week's chart-topping episode. And then we'll cap it all off with that Inflation Deflation on Chibi Robo.
And, of course, you can find us on thegamedeflators.com. You can also find us on YouTube if you're watching. Hit the little bell so you know we're on. Subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. We're also on podcast apps out there, so if you don't want to look at us, you can hear us at least. And you can go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment on there, too. Leave us a 5-star review if you can. That'd be great. 10 if possible. Multiple 5 stars. That's cool, too. And let's see. We're on social media at Game Deflators on X, at The Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Blue Sky. All of that. All done. Okay. Recent pickups. Recent pickups. All right. So I picked up Self-Loss on the PS5. So look that one up. Dude, this is right up your alley, actually. I think you and your wife will like this. Yeah, I think you and your wife will like this. You like Tunic, I remember, and you played that.
I love
the Tunic. Art style reminds me of Tunic a little bit. So yeah, look at that one. I think you'll like that. And the other one, well, I got two others, but this one is here with me at the moment. Cocoon, pick that up.
Oh, that game is so good.
Yeah, so Self-Loss I was on Woot, and they had it for like $20. So I was like, all right, I've been waiting for it to drop in price, so I picked that up. Cocoon, it's like 35 or 40 something on eBay, if I recall. And some random seller on Amazon had them new for 25, so figured, why not? Let me go ahead and pick those up.
That's definitely a good one I would recommend playing because it doesn't take that long to get through, but it's just such a creative puzzle game.
Yeah, and it looks great too, like beautiful artwork. So I'm excited to jump into that one at some point. And those are both like super short games. So those are some that in between like my bigger gaming experiences like Fantasian right now, like before diving into Castlevania, for example, maybe I'll dive into one of those. I don't know yet. And the other one I got was Neva. So I never thought it was going to come in.
So highly rated.
Yeah, it looks so good. But I played Gris a long time ago on the Switch. Kind of tempted to rebuy it on the PS5 and then stream it and be able to have the experience like not in handheld mode. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Better graphics, obviously, than the Switch. But yeah, I got Neva.
If you have it on Switch, you should be able to re-download it on Switch too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could play it in 4K there without ever having to rebuy it.
But I would have to pay $450+ to get a Switch.
Yeah, but you're going to get a Switch too eventually.
At some point, but like,
are you going to play Neva again and stream it like in the next 3 years?
Well, Neva I have on the PS5.
Or no, Gris.
I mean, it's $30 on the PS5, and I wouldn't mind playing it again. It's like a 3-hour game. It's not that long. Mm-hmm. It's like super quick. Let's see what else I get. Oh, new deck box for Magic cards. So this one, I'll show you.
That's one of the windowed ones, right?
Yeah, it's a windowed one, but
those are cool.
You can actually set it like this and pull your cards out. So kind of necessary because I double sleeve this thing. And I don't think I'm going to get all the cards in there, even double sleeved. It's kind of ridiculous. And shuffling it, I have to pull it into 2 different piles and then merge them together. Otherwise, they will fall out. So, and this is still 10 cards short. So it's going to be tight when it's all said and done. It's going to be really tight. Yeah. But
so you already need another new deck box.
Yeah, kind of. But you know what? I don't mind because I'll just use like a single sleeve deck. I'll just throw it in here if I need to. But I could not find a deck box that like this said that it supported 120 plus double sleeve cards. I'm barely getting 90 in this thing. Yeah, I barely get 90. It's 99 technically when it's double sleeves. So I don't know if maybe the double sleeves I'm using the hardbacks. I forget the name of the company. But yeah, it's like it's a thicker sleeve. Obviously can't see the thickness on here, but they are definitely a much thicker sleeve than your standard double sleeve. So maybe that's contributing to it. And then maybe the type of sleeve I'm using is also thick in comparison to what they maybe are testing with. But overall, like, I'm going to protect those cards. It's like $600 and $700 cards in there. So I'm not about to not double sleeve my cards,
Yeah.
even though some are technically damaged, which the damage is minimal, when I purchased it. So yeah,
Keep
that's
it
where we
that
are.
way.
Yeah, we'll keep it that way. So that is my pickups. As far as what I am playing right now, I'm still playing Fantasia Neo Dimension a lot further now. I'm about 27 hours into the game. I have kind of figured out exactly how the story and the quests actually work now. That far into the game, basically there are multiple quests that are ongoing, and the game itself doesn't really give you a lot of, hey, here's what you need to be doing, right? To like get. So, for example, Kina and Cheryl, two of the characters, I could have rescued them apparently a long time ago, like a long time ago, and I've been from like level 20, and I'm now level 42, and I haven't played with either of these characters at any point. So I'm going back to rescue them now, and I am thinking they're probably going to be in their low 20s for their level, which means I'm going to be doing some level grinding,
Oh
unfortunately.
no.
Yeah, but it's kind of the way the game sets up the level grinding is, let's say it's a recommended level of 42 and your character's level 42. Once you hit that, your experience is minimal, right? Like it's hardly any experience at all. But anybody else who is in the party, not in the party like actively fighting, but even on your bench, they get a significant amount of experience from just sitting
Oh,
there.
okay. So you could just
So
blow through some stuff and they'll just power level on the bench.
exactly.
Okay,
That's kind
easy
of the
enough.
thought. Yeah, exactly. And I have like a jewel that gives me double experience, for example, for one character, so I could throw that on one of them. I
That
just figured
shouldn't be
out.
too bad then.
No, it shouldn't be too bad. I just figured out how to upgrade weapons, which is kind of cool. So I'm messing with that. And then the story itself, it does feel a little fragmented, and I learned why recently. So I think this was a mobile game initially, and they released like part one, and then it was months later that they released part two. And so for me playing it, like I'm playing in its entirety right off the bat, right? So where most people would have ended at part one and had kind of a lapse in time and then things kind of pick up like you would, a TV show or something. I didn't have that. It just went right into part two. So it feels like very odd, like the connection between those. It just didn't feel like a seamless connection. So overall, though, I mean, I'm learning a lot more in the game about like character backgrounds. I still can't remember one of the characters' names, but all the other ones I remember. So we're making some progress, Ryan. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game so far. I'm enjoying it more as I've continued to level up, kind of continue to engage in the story. And I mean, there's not much else for me to say about it. I mean, I'm pretty bad at remembering some of these things that are ongoing, but I can say this week I put in about close to 4 hours of gameplay on it, which is good. And then the other thing that I've noticed too is the art style in this game. When I first started playing, it didn't really capture me, but now that I've continued to play it more and more, it has like a diorama feel to it,
Okay.
almost like this claymation diorama type of feel to the game itself. It just it's interesting. Like after I've gone through this amount of time and just kind of looking back, I'm like, I actually really like this art style and the way that they position everything. Like as you're going through like certain levels, it feels like you're looking at somebody's diorama they made out of clay and like other art objects. Like it's actually pretty cool. So
Nice.
yeah, I mean, it might be something that's up your alley, but from what I understand, you've got a pretty good one that you'll talk about here in a moment.
Oh yeah. I'm going to be
Yeah.
talking about this. I've been talking about this to everyone.
So we'll get that in just one moment. The other game I'm playing right now is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So my wife and I finished up Mario RPG, and then we moved into Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which we're maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours into gameplay wise. And it's a Tomb Raider game. I'm enjoying it. All of these Tomb Raider reboot games are fantastic. Like I can't recommend them enough to anybody who maybe has played Tomb Raider in the past and wants to jump into a new experience, or has never played Tomb Raider. These are fantastic games to jump into, and some that I would definitely recommend to anybody out there that has interest in like third-person shooters and exploring and things of that nature. So, your pickups, sir.
All right, so pickups this week was a really good week, especially for people who have Game Pass. We got the Oblivion remake remaster thing, and we got Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which I will, and it seems like nobody will stop singing the praises of. So I played both of those a bit this week. I do want to at least shout out that me and my wife were playing South of Midnight at the beginning of the week still. So we played through kind of like the second major chapter with like Two-Toe Tom. He's like the big crocodile from the preview footage and trailers that had come out before. So
That
we actually
name.
went through that chapter.
Two-Toe
And
Tom.
yeah, the music and the story in that game is still really charming and fun, and I'm hoping that we will make it all the way through there. But like, I got so enwrapped in Clair Obscur that I got my wife to start playing it also. So we're both playing it separately. She's playing it on the Xbox. I'm playing it on my laptop. Before I delve fully into that, though, Oblivion remake came out. So I booted that up. It looks great. It sounds great. I went through the character creator. I did not make it actually out of the beginning like tunnel sequence where you're just like following the Emperor along. I don't know. I was playing around with the settings a bunch, and I kind of started getting a headache. It was after like a day of work, and I was just like not feeling it. So I really only played it for like an hour or so, and then I put it down.
So Oblivion, I'm pretty sure, is a game that you can actually beat in under an hour.
Probably.
I'm pretty sure you can go like right to the end boss in that one, if I recall.
I don't know. I know it's got like, so I never finished Oblivion. The way that the game scaling works is that the enemies like scale up with you. So in the very beginning missions of the story mode, you'll like go to a town and it's overrun with like little imps that run around and throw fireballs and stuff. Well, if you do all the side quest stuff first and you become like the leader of the Mage Guild and do all of like the Assassin's Guild or whatever it's called again, the Dark Brotherhood, and then you go back, well, all those first level missions are like high level Daedra and it crashes your Xbox and then you can't finish the game. So that's what happened to me, and I never really went back to it after that.
So fastest known speedrun time for Oblivion is 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then a standard speedrun is 15 to 20 hours.
Yeah, that sounds.
I think you could speedrun it, right?
No, I'm not going to put that kind of time into Oblivion. Oblivion was a really fun game back in the day. People have like a lot of really good things to say about the remake, and I'm sure it's something I'll probably mess around with a bit in the future, but I've played so much Skyrim, and I feel like this is just a decent stopgap to keep them talking about, to keep people alive and reminded of the series outside of Elder Scrolls Online until, you know, like what, 2027 or something, whenever we get the next Elder Scrolls will be. So I certainly might dabble with it, but I don't really have as much affection for the Oblivion as maybe some other people do, just because I only had like really the one experience, whereas Skyrim was one of those ones I went back to again and again. But it did make me revisit one of my favorite jams of all time, and that is the Guard Song remix from Oblivion way back in the day. That is good. And there's so many comments on that video now, like drop the remake for that video. So if you've never seen the Guard Song from Oblivion, go and watch that. That is a real old internet treat. So anyways, on to the main stage, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game, like, I was very interested in this game when I saw it at like the Xbox showcase or whatever, or maybe it was Summer Game Fest. I don't remember what the first showing of it was, but it was like, oh man, this looks like Lost Odyssey, and that was like the sickest game on the Xbox 360, just like a from, you know, out of nowhere different RPG than what you were expecting. And this game does like all the cool stuff that I've seen from like Persona. It's got like just really cool timing and impact on the combat that makes it very different and more engaging. the story is just incredible. Like, no joke, in the first hour I like cried, I was like mesmerized, I was like blown away by what this game was showing me and throwing at me, and it was just like it was unlike a feeling that I've had from playing a game in a long time. Like, whenever you boot up a new RPG and you're like, man, I really want something to hook me the way like Final Fantasy X did back in the day or something. I get all those feelings from this, and it has so many like I'll kind of break down certain parts of the game here. So it's a turn-based, classic style JRPG. You do actually have the Final Fantasy X like turn order bar on the side of the screen, so you can see who's up next and kind of try to mess with that. Like, I don't have any like haste abilities or slow abilities yet, but I am dumping a ton of stat points into everybody's speed attribute to try to outspeed the opponents and see if I can't get like multiple turns going in a row or something. But one of the main things that is so engaging is the attacks and skills are not like MP based or anything like that. There's no like cumulative fight to fight measure of anything other than your health. So at the beginning of the match, each time like you can go through your same skill order and do those, each fight kind of the same way and try to be like optimal with it. So there's certain abilities like your main attack will generate the AP, which you use for skills. Certain skills use certain amounts of AP, but every character actually plays differently. So your main character, Gustav, he has this like arm that has this like generator ability on it. So once you reach 10 overdrive, you do this like electric attack that does a ton of damage. And most skills have a timing element to them where you'll get like an A button press come on and it's got like a little radial dial that'll tick down, and you want to hit it when it's on this like final kind of side of the diamond, so you get like a perfect timing and do like more damage or whatever. And usually there's like one or two, or depending on the skill, there might be multiple of those timings. So you just kind of get used to that as it goes on. And then when enemies are attacking you, there's several options on kind of what to do. So you can do a dodge, which gives you a greater timing window. If you dodge, you take no damage. But enemies usually have like a string of multiple hits, and they'll like try to trip you up on the dodge timing. Even in just like normal mode, I've been having like a pretty challenging time with some of these dodges. Like, it's not something you're always going to get off like crack on the first try. Then there's also a parry. So I learned earlier today that the timing for the parry is the same as it is for a perfect dodge. And if you parry, you stop the attack, take no damage, and you do damage back. And it's a significant amount of damage. So you're going through these battles and you don't have items the way you traditionally do in an RPG. You basically have like a Dark Souls flask system where you have like a revive an ally, a heal somebody, and a give somebody extra AP. And that's it. And then you have like a heal the whole party outside of battle, and until you rest at like a bonfire equivalent and it regenerates all the enemies in the world, you don't get like other healing other than like the abilities you have. So if you're really good, you can use those healing abilities in battle, dodge all the damage coming at you, and be fine theoretically. But it doesn't really take a lot of hits, even in normal, to like KO a character and be out. So it's got some heavy challenge. And then as far as like other characters I've seen, without getting like into too much detail, there's a character who has like a lot more magic abilities using elements, and they have this system where there's these like 4 charges they accumulate that are like fire, earth, lightning, and light, I think are the 4. And so different abilities can consume certain of those like combinations to do extra damage or extra effects. So you want to like do your damage in certain ways to get that Oh, sorry. So you can maximize your damage and your output. And then the third character that I've seen so far, they have like a stance system where certain abilities will put them into a stance depending on if the enemy is like burned or something, and then certain attacks will keep them in that same stance. And they have like a more defensive stance and a stance that does like 200% damage, or a stance that like does more damage but takes more damage. So there's like certain ways you can play around with it. The combat is so fast and snappy. The combat also has like a free aiming like gun mode,
Hmm.
where you can use like one ability point to do a shot, and enemies have like weak points. There's like flying enemies that you almost like always miss with your attacks, but you can usually take out in like one or two gunshots. But each of those gunshots is going to set you back on your AP, which you use to generate to do those bigger damaging skills and things. So there's a lot of interesting push pull. As far as the RPG mechanics, you have different weapons that have different upgrades. I haven't gotten too much into that. You have these, oh god, what do they call them? Pastels or something. I can't remember the name of them. But anyways, they're like the items that you equip that give you a skill. And then once you've done 5 combats with one of those on, you master that skill. And then you can use your lumens to equip those like they're a badge or something. So you can keep the skill active without having to have its corresponding item equipped. And those take various amount of points to equip, and your points are equivalent to your level, but there's items you can use to increase that cap. So it becomes very intricate in kind of how you can build characters. And I'm already seeing like lots of different like cast a shell on you when you're at 50% HP, or get an AP when you do a perfect dodge, or you have a greater chance to burn, or your shots have a chance to burn. So you probably have a lot of ability of how you're going to customize these characters. Each one of those characters has one of those great like, I don't know what the type of graph it is, but like you see it in Pokemon where it's like each one of the skills on the corner of like a pentagon, and then it has like, radiating out like how many points that you've put into it, so you can get like a map of like your character's ability in a
Yeah.
visual spectrum.
Hmm.
So it's got one of those, which I always like to see on it. And it's just like all the visuals are so sharp. It has those like cool, menus where it's like striking poses of like the characters, and it all looks very dynamic. The world and setting, just kind of going over what is in like most of the trailers and the media. But if you're not familiar, it's a weird like post-apocalyptic event world. It seems inspired by a lot of real world like France, if anybody doesn't know. So this team is first time studio, Sandfall, and it's a team of 33 people that made this game, and they're like mostly ex Ubisoft. So it's got very like French vibes, like they curse in French, like a lot of the words are in French. And it's in the beginning you see this like twisted like version of the Eiffel Tower. Like the world is like just in chaos, and you're in this like you're in this city, and you learn that there's this like paintress. She's like this giant figure on this island that they can see from like their port harbor. And on this island there's this like big tower with a big huge number on it, and every year she erases the number and paints a lower number by 1, and everyone who's that age or older, just like Thanos snaps, disappears out of the world. So they keep sending these expeditions to try to like stop the paintress or keep her asleep or do something, but like nobody ever returns. And so that's kind of your whole mission. You start off, and it's so beautiful, the music and the imagery. Like it's very Final Fantasy X, like, Yuna dancing and doing the sending and things. Like I get all of those vibes. And
Yeah, you might have sold me on it.
Super cool.
Yeah, you might have sold me on it.
It's super cool.
I'd seen some stuff on it a little bit back, and it caught my eye. But like hearing you talk about it, like it's definitely something I want to jump into for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So
before we get into the next part here, which would be reviews, I did want to ask, kind of bringing back the discussion topic real quick. Have you seen the Last of Us 2 episode or Last of Us season 2? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
let's talk about that really quick before we dive in.
Are we doing a spoiler warning here?
Yeah, spoiler warning
about the golfing incident.
Yeah, the golfing incident of Last of Us. In case somebody hasn't played the game and is watching the show, sure. So overall, the first 2 episodes, since episode 3 comes out tonight when we're recording, I liked the first episode. I thought it was great. Episode 2, I don't know. They did a lot that is different from the game, of course, and you have to have that in some respect.
I never played the game.
You never played the game?
No, but I've watched like a bunch of reviews. I mean, we were doing the podcast when the game came out, so
yeah. So like, for example, like the town, I don't remember, like nothing like that happened in the game. Like you weren't actively involved in like a mass attack from hordes of stuff. Now what I do think though is maybe I missed it. Maybe there was like talk of it within the game and I just never caught it. Like, hey,
no, I think they invented that all for the show. Like, do you watch the like after the episode?
I never do.
So after the episode on Max, they always have like the creators and stuff talking about it and give you like insights into it. They made all that up as a way to like, you know, have this like rival tension. So there was just like everything is like going down at once.
That's kind of what I thought.
Like dual effect of like how intense everything is.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like about that though is Tommy is supposed to be with Joel. It's not supposed to be the other way around. So like Tommy was supposed to be traveling with Joel. They come across Abby. They're all running from these hordes of clickers and stuff. And then they
so Dina wasn't there.
Dina wasn't there because Dina is with Ellie on the search to find Joel. And then the whole scene where they're in the 7-Eleven and the weed shop and all that stuff, Dina's supposed to be with Ellie smoking. And then she gets caught. I think it's Jesse, right? Is the other guy? Is that his name? I always forget. The Asian guy?
Yeah.
It's Jesse, right?
I can't remember his name.
Isn't it Jesse? I don't know. I'm going to look it up really quick. If anybody's new to listening, I forget names. So let's see.
We're not the name deflators.
It's Jesse. Yeah, not the name deflators. So yeah, Jesse is not supposed to be with Ellie. Jesse actually walks in on them like later on.
Okay.
Right. So like that to me was kind of weird. Like I didn't understand like why you had Dina, but maybe they looked at it from a standpoint of in the game it made sense, but in the real life atmosphere, like maybe Joel and Tommy would be a little more kind of weary as to what was happening and catch wise and like from from their personalities.
Just like from the stance of like the show, and I think they might have mentioned like you don't have as much time with these characters, so you need to like make a bigger impact because you're not playing those characters. So I think it might have been a way to just kind of like speed things up.
But that's what's confusing to me because, like, if you're trying to build up characters, then why would you have Dina with Joel? You would want to have Dina with Ellie as naturally it should have occurred to be able to build up that relationship and what's happening because later on, they're supposed to be with each other anyways. Jesse is more of a secondary character regardless down the road. And then with Tommy, like, the whole concept of like Tommy's revenge.
I don't know, man. It's
but like Tommy's revenge down the road kind of stems from this, like he was there, he was watching all of us go down, like he wants Abby dead. And so like I'm just wondering how they're going to make it click at the very end of this season where Ellie just kind of like, I'm spoiling shit for you here, but like
I mean you've already
seen a lot of
the story.
When Ellie just kind of finally chills down, she's like, okay, like I'm at peace or whatever, like in that situation, like she's happy, she's with Dina and everything else. And then Tommy just kind of comes in, he's like, oh, I know where she's at. Like he's still on this like, you know, hunt for revenge and like, you know, this thirst for blood that he has to avenge his brother and like, oh, you need to help me do this or whatever. Like that in itself, like where does that come into play later on? Because Tommy wasn't there. He didn't see all of this happen. So
yeah,
it's still going to technically be there. Like he's still going to want to be involved in killer and all that, I'm sure, but it's a different type of vibe from seeing your brother get beaten and killed firsthand than finding out after the fact. So
yeah,
That to me is interesting. So I'll see. I'm curious what they do with that, and definitely curious for anybody listening, like what their views are on those first two episodes, and we could talk about episode 3 next week when it
Well, and
comes out.
maybe I probably, since I didn't experience the game firsthand, I've just seen like stuff about it and watched videos on it. Like, even though those videos were like pretty in depth, like it's not the same memory wise for me. So it will be interesting to see the dichotomy of kind of my not really having played the game and your definitely having played the game and having all
Yeah.
that, and
Well,
see how
and
we both take each episode. Because I'm like, that was award-winning TV. Like, I don't see the
yeah.
problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're kind of fresh into it, not a big deal. It's kind of like the whole Bella Ramsey thing. Like for me, I don't like her as Ellie, and it like she has the personality, she's got the voice, like all of that kind of matches. But the look of Bella Ramsey in comparison to what Ellie looks like, for me, it bugs me still, right? Like, despite how good she is in that role, and I
They
think
changed
she's
Abby a lot too.
yeah. And what's interesting is like I look at Abby's actress, I'm like, wow, if she was playing Ellie, I'd be
She
like,
actually was up for Ellie.
yeah,
She almost got the role
I
of Ellie for season 1.
I would have 100% been like, as she kind of popped up, I'm like, so couple things. That's how Abby should have looked in the video game, right? If we were going based off looks. Uh, and that's who should have played Ellie. Like the second I saw her
I don't know.
face,
I
I'm
don't
like,
get behind
that.
all that.
I mean, I'm just saying, like that's kind of the vibe I got watching. Like if I was casting, that's who I would have cast for that role if I was going off looks alone. Personality wise, though, absolutely the right choice. Like the way that they're playing those roles is spot on. So I
Mhm.
was really happy with the. I think it's Kate Denver. I think is her name, who's playing
She's
Abby.
from Arizona, I think.
Is she? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think Brie looked it up.
Oh, yeah, great job. Like I really like the work that she did with the role of Abby so far. I did get a little laugh when she's like giving her backstory and her reasoning, and Jill's like, "Oh, shut up and just get it on already."
Yeah.
And I think that's extended. I don't recall that big of like a monologue during the game. I think it was like pretty quick. And then the stabbing component versus a club, I thought was I kind of wish it would have been like the club at the end versus like stab you're dead type of thing. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm liking it. I think the season so far is pretty good. It is getting review bombed, of course.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that
I
this morning.
I don't know why. I haven't really looked into
Because
it.
people got an internet.
I guess like I didn't just because like the Bella Ramsey thing, just because I don't really like the casting decision, I'm not going to go review
Well,
bomb a
you're
show.
a rational person.
Yeah,
That's not what the internet's not for us, John.
yeah. Well, and I had a conversation. It might have been before we recorded last week, or maybe somebody else. But like, there's all this like with the Harry Potter situation with I forget his name, but like playing Snape, and people are angry about that. Like, I understand like people's frustration, anger towards certain characters, and meeting like a criteria, right? Like what has already been played before, what has been developed in an existing show. It's a little different for books, in my opinion, right? But games, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of wish the characters would look pretty close, like as close as possible to the character. But I do understand there's other elements in acting, right? You can't just have a one-to-one. Tom Holland with Nathan Drake, another good example. Not the greatest casting choice, but he technically played the role pretty well for what he was doing. So
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, like, as anybody who's a fan of one thing, you want to see it faithfully recreated,
yeah,
but it's just there's no creativity in doing something one for one, and it already exists in that other way. And there's such a disparity between how you interact with a game and how you interact with a movie to begin with, that like between taking creative liberties to change things and adapt it so that it's actually functional and worth engaging with, there's also just the creative liberties of being like, hey, I want to leave my own mark on this. This is not The Last of Us, the game, the movie. This is just The Last of Us, and it's just a show. Same
yeah,
name, same premise, but like we gotta do things the way we want to do it.
and I guess the only other thing to consider with that is, who's the audience, right? At the end of the day, and if they are just looking to bring in new audience members, outside of gamers, they're going to do that successfully, right? You don't want to alienate your core audience, though. And I think that's the critical piece. There is a fine balance of we want our core audience to be happy, but we also need to bring in new people, right? So like the whole town getting destroyed by clickers, and And mind you, like the smart clickers, for example, like I want to say there's like few instances in a game that appears, but it's not like the majority of clickers in the world are now smart, right? Like there's only a select group, and I don't even think they were technically smart. It's the ones that kind of crawl around and, you know, are actively hunting. I forget their names, but you have to bring in those things to bring in that audience. If we just had, like you said, a 1-to-1 remake and it was almost to a T, you're going to probably bore to death out of some people. There's a lot of components in those games that really draw you in that you can't capture
I want
in
to
a TV
watch.
show.
I want to watch Pedro Pascal rummaging through drawers and cabinets,
That actually, yeah, and like making
and
random
crafting. I want to
bombs and
see him
crap.
open his backpack and making Molotov cocktails.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hold on. There's a bunch of clickers attacking. Let me hide in a corner really quick and strap myself up with some bandages. And whoa, I'm magically healed now. Yeah, I get it. Like there's things
Every
that you
3
can't
minutes, I
incorporate.
want to see him wrestling and stab somebody in the neck.
And the screen go red in the process. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, guess what though? There's no more Pedro Pascal, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
All right, let's go into more Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
So, for anybody who didn't hear the first part there, which I hope you did, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 may be the highest user scored game ever. This is by Paul Tassi at Forbes. So this was actually pretty crazy to read, but pretty impressive. So Paul Tassi, big writer, he went through and was looking at the Metascores. So Expedition 33 has a 9.6 out of 10 on Metacritic from players. And that's the highest score that he's found. And he says by a good margin. It's not perfect, but let's see here. What's he say? Among these, clicking through as many as I can, I've only seen one 9.3. And that's for The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC. So everything else you could think of, like he goes through here. Ocarina of Time, 9.1. Final Fantasy 7, 8.9. GTA 5, 8.5. Last of Us, 9.2. Baldur's Gate, 9.2. Like, all of these are really good and, really high scores, but 96 is the highest. And that's this new RPG that everybody's talking about that came out this week. And it's as good as they say, or better.
Well, I mean, it's still early on, right? So, I mean, I'm not going to disagree. It sounds fantastic and something I want to jump into. But we're at a week of reviews. So let's see where it settles out. I think we'll probably look at about a 9.2, 9.3 when all's said and done. I don't think it's going to keep a 9.6 user score
But what if
throughout.
it does? And I'm not even that far into the game. I might be like 5 or 6 hours in at most.
Then fantastic if it does. I just don't think it will. I think over time, law of averages is going to bring that down quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, you could have people review bomb it too, which kind of screws it up, right? Like, oh, I'm a big Nintendo fanboy and I want to make sure that like Zelda stays on top or something. Let me.
Zelda's not even on top.
I know. But like, you know what I mean? Like, just let's band together and get Ocarina of Time to be a 9.7 and get Expedition on a 9.2 or something. I can see
that's
that
true. Worse things have happened.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? Last of Us Part 2 was like a 2 point something. I don't remember. It was years ago. But, that it happens with games. Some of them are, going to be high rated out the gate and will settle down over time. I do hope it maintains that score, though. That'd be pretty cool for such a new studio and, just kind of shows kudos to the work that they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And like for being the first game, like I'm so excited to see what's going to come next. And I'm wondering if it's going to be like, I was listening to the Friends Per Second earlier and, they brought up a good point. Like this could be like a franchise thing. Like they do have that like over titled, like the Clair Obscur. So, are we going to get like a Clair Obscur Expedition 32 or we'll get Expedition 0 or
Expedition 13 is going to be a bunch of teenagers?
Or is it just going to be Clair Obscur something else? Because it's like Final Fantasy, they just keep their they've got their numbering system going, but like so many Final Fantasies are so completely different from each other. This could just be how they're going to approach it. But I'd love to see this same team be able to grow and expand and, really kind of open things up and see what they could do off the back of the wild success. Because, like, they sold, like, through 500,000 copies in the opening weekend here, I think,
Jeez.
or more.
It's not
so
bad.
they're already, like, doing super well on that end, and it's in Game Pass, so, like, that's on top of that.
Yeah, I saw it's like $40, I want to say, for a copy,
Yeah,
40
and
or
it's
50.
not even a full price game.
Yeah. Nice.
So it's just the amount of quality for it's $45 right now. I think it's on sale on Steam too.
Already?
I'm gonna look it up.
I guess you were trying to bulk up sales. That makes sense.
Let's see. Yeah, so it's it's normally 50. It's on sale at 45 right now.
I mean, still, right? Sounds like it's worth a pickup. I was looking up; it's about a 30-hour game, so you got some good value and time there as well. Yeah, as you chug through it, definitely interested to hear more as you progress through the game. And I've already got my games lined up pretty much for the year as far as what I'm going to be playing, but it's definitely one I'll take a look at.
Yeah,
so it's on the
definitely.
list. Cool. Well, let's go into some non-video games here, talking about best-selling. So the Final Fantasy set for Magic the Gathering is officially the best-selling set in its history, and this comes from Wargamer. I mean, no surprises here. I mean, a couple factors, right? One is higher prices overall, right? So you're going to generate more revenue because of that. It's Final Fantasy, so it's a known IP. So you're going to have a number of game collectors that are interested, or just Final Fantasy fans in general, who are going to purchase these cards. And then it's Magic the Gathering, which already has a fairly large install base as far as gamers is concerned within that. And you're going to bring in people who maybe haven't been playing Magic for some time because it's Final Fantasy. So there's a lot that kind of goes into it, which would, of course, generate this type of profit. But overall, Hasbro, due to the tariffs, this has actually been a blessing in disguise for the company. There's not, I mean, when you think about it, yes, they're going to be affected by tariffs, but what goes into making cards in comparison to making like toys, which they also do, is vastly different, right?
Yeah.
So they're really leaning in on Wizards of the Coast in general to help kind of weather the storm of the tariff situation that's going on in the US. They don't intend on cutting out toy production from China anytime soon because it's already kind of set in stone. It's affordable for them. And of course, I'd think long term, a lot of this type of stuff might be rolled back anyways. So it doesn't make sense for them to kind of shift toy making to the US or other countries when they have that existing infrastructure in place. But that said, cards is printing. You mass print and you get a deal if you print more, right? And so you've got a whole big recipe for success as it pertains to cards in particular. Yes, prices are going to go up, but there is a larger profit margin within that. So it's kind of good for them.
And we'll see how much the quality suffers. Like, Magic's no stranger to, like, Pringles on their foils. So
I think that's
we'll
done,
see
though,
if
right?
that. Well, I know, but, like, that's the thing. Like, if it's already going to be so much more expensive and they're trying to maximize profits, like, who's to say they're not going to try to dip back on the quality because people will buy it anyways? Who cares? Sell it to them.
I don't know, man. Those Pringle cards pissed off a lot of people. In fact, I was going through my collection. I'm considering throwing out all of my Pringle lands at this point. No matter how good they look, I'm not a fan of them at all. It looks like crap. And it's hard to unpringle them. You kind of have to bend them in shape almost. And it sucks because you got to do it for like each individual card. No, I mean, this is good for them, obviously. And it's good for consumers as well, right? Like, it just kind of shows that the game is thriving. It's bringing in a lot of new players.
I don't know if it's good for consumers. Like, they drove up the price. These are like $7 a pack or something, right?
I'm saying it's good for consumers in the sense that it's going to, because of how well it's doing, we're not going to see a shortage of this. They're going to continue to print this thing into the ground. So when you look at, like,
but they're going to continue to, like, not relent on the price. Like, and that's the other thing too. Like, is it even going to be available? Like, if it's selling this well,
yeah. Walmart just opened up pre-orders again. They open up more pre-orders for stock. So, I mean, they will print this into the ground. Like, secondary market is going to suffer from this set in particular. Like, I don't think anything here is going to be of value. There's going to be so much as crap in market and opened up. I don't see this set holding a ton of value overall. And I mean, that in a sense is good for consumers, right? If you want to collect the Final Fantasy set, it's probably, I think, going to be one of the cheaper sets to collect long term, just because of how much is printed. That's my general view on it. Of course, you're going to have like your special versions and whatever they might create that are going to be of value, but I think for the long haul, like this is definitely going to be a value set for people. That's just my view.
Yeah, is this surprising to you? Like between like Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons, like Dungeons and Dragons already has so much crossover, so maybe there just wasn't like that many more people that you're really going to grab with that. But it just seems like wild to me that Final Fantasy is the one that's like, this is the one. This is the one true calling.
I'm not surprised because Dungeons and Dragons is a very niche audience, right? And yeah, some of them are gonna cross over with Magic, but a lot of them maybe don't play Magic, right? And then when it comes, and it's a big IP, but like when you think about the fan base of D&D versus a fan base of even like Final Fantasy, it's vastly different. I would say there's probably a larger fan base of Final Fantasy, in my opinion, or in my perspective, I guess. And then when you look at Lord of the Rings, that's even more. I mean, you're taking Dungeons and Dragons, which is let's just say the umbrella is Dungeons and Dragons, right? Lord of the Rings is a part of that umbrella. I don't think it's no longer the top, even though D&D I think is technically based off of Lord of the Rings, right? And what was happening in those worlds. It's now kind of, I would argue, below that in a sense, in terms of the size of the fan base by comparison. That I have no metrics I'm going based off of. That's just a personal opinion on that. So I think when you look at Final Fantasy, you do have a much larger fan base, which is going to contribute to this. Like
there's already like Final Fantasy card games out there.
Yeah, but they're not that good. Like it's the Final Fantasy trading. Like if they would have done what they did for Final Fantasy
but
8,
like if you're a person who's like getting into Magic because they made a Final Fantasy set and you just want like Final Fantasy looking cards, like there's already ways to spend that money that exist. It's just wild to me that it's pulling in that much more. Like,
well, because you have Magic the Gathering fans that are also Final Fantasy fans, though.
Okay, and then they're gonna come back and spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy is a big IP. I'm not saying that like Lord of the Rings and D&D aren't, but are they as big as Final Fantasy? I don't think so. I mean, when you consider like D&D book sales by comparison of Final Fantasy game sales, or like movie ticket sales for Final Fantasy or for Lord of the Rings, or Amazon views of the newest Lord of the Rings show, or like the Hobbit streams and things like that, like in comparison, does it have more than Final Fantasy sales and everything else tied to Final Fantasy? I would argue no. And Final Fantasy is a consistent IP that's out it's always out in the form of Final Fantasy 14, in the form of other Final Fantasy products that are in market. I would just think that it's a much bigger IP now than both of those.
Do you think that the fact that many Final Fantasy games have card games within those games makes these players more predisposed to buying Final Fantasy card games?
I would say no. I mean, I was taken aback a little bit. Final Fantasy 8, they did actually release Final Fantasy 8 cards from that card game years ago, and I think 9 also
what
had
is it, Tetramaster?
I don't remember the name, but
I don't remember which one.
I enjoyed it so much when I was younger, playing Final Fantasy 8 and having that card game. But it's again a niche audience, right? Like Final Fantasy 8 isn't exactly the most superior Final Fantasy out there, right? Like there's others that people enjoy more. And so when you start getting into the deeper you go into the weeds, right, and down the overall like diagram, I guess, of these games. So right, Final Fantasy as a whole, great, it's at the top. Final Fantasy 8 is definitely like say a middle tier for some people. Then you dig into the card game component, that's even lower in that, like the people that enjoyed it. So like the deeper you go into certain specifics on something, the less fans you're going to have overall.
Blitzball players.
Blitzball is fantastic. They should have made a whole separate game just on Blitzball.
No.
But will they do it? No, dude, it would have been great to have a Blitzball game on its own. Like, look, if Harry Potter can get its own Quidditch game, we can get our own Blitzball game in 2025. Come on.
God.
So there's a group of people out there that would probably argue for me on that, and some that would take your position and be like, no, it's not needed. So But at the end of the day, okay, I would want a Blitzball game. You wouldn't, right? But what are we both fans of? We're both fans of Final Fantasy
Magic.
and Magic. Yeah.
So there's going to be a Blitzball artifact card. There should be.
There's probably going to be somebody on their shit and be like, "Oh, John, you're completely wrong in every aspect," and that's
A
cool.
Blitzball equipment card that gives a monster creature +1/0 and reach.
Yeah. What does Waka always say? I forget. Like he has his own like phrase. It's been years.
I can't remember.
I don't know, but it's gonna be like some really weird Waka phrase, like as the the text on the bottom, the flavor text. It's gonna be like Waka's quote on something about Blitzball. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's a big IP, but you know what? I guess you can kind of say like Spider-Man, the whole Spider-Man set that's going out.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that too.
But just to kind of tie into that a little bit before we go in like full-fledged, I don't think that one will sell as well. And the reason being is like, yes, it's a big IP, but let's just say Brad, for example. We both know Brad. Brad enjoys Spider-Man. Is Brad going to play Magic because of Spider-Man? No, Brad is not going to play Magic because of Spider-Man, because that's a whole different type of nerd over there compared to a Magic nerd. So
well, it's just because like lots of comic shops have Friday Night Magic. Like they're in the same place. They sell the product at the same source.
But if you're a comic reader, you're reading comics. If you enjoy Marvel movies and Spider-Man, you enjoy Marvel movies and Spider-Man. You might not necessarily enjoy going on and playing with a bunch of people on a Friday night, right? Like, so, and you could technically say the same thing about Final Fantasy, but I just think the medium and what we're looking at there, it's fantasy-based material tied in with Magic, which is a fantasy-based world or worlds, right? Spider-Man is New York City. How does the correlation there?
And one is a game and one is like a watching or reading thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot more. God, somebody's going to kill me in the comments here, but like I would argue there's a lot more lore tied to different Final Fantasies than just Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man's got Spider-Man. He's got his enemies.
I don't know. There's a lot of Spider-Man out there, man. They've been writing Spider-Man for decades.
They have, but it's like you have a slew of a ton of enemies and supporting characters, and Spider-Man.
Final Fantasy has like what? Final Fantasy 7 has like 6 games or something associated with that. That's like the most expanded look at any one.
Final Fantasy Spider-Man has one main protagonist, like the main hero. Final Fantasy is up to what, 16 now, and has in each of those games upwards to like 6 heroes. So I mean, when you consider that in itself,
and each one of them has an Uncle Ben. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And each one of them has a backstory, and each one of them has their weapons and their abilities and things like that. Spider-Man,
it's just a lot shallower. It's a lot wider, but it's a lot shallower. Yeah. Like so, we know where Spider-Man was on August the 13th, 1973,
and connection-wise, right? So like, okay, I know Squall, I know Tidus, I know Zidane, I know all of these other Final Fantasy heroes throughout history. You have Sid, you have Red 13.
Yeah, but they're not really that deep of characters. Most of them are like unspeaking protagonists.
They're not, but they're recognizable, right? And they're characters that you have.
Yeah, but none of them are individually more recognizable than Spider-Man.
But it's just one character in Spider-Man. Yeah, you got a couple of heroes, but like, what do you got? A Spider-Man and
you
a Mary
could
Jane
show
card?
Your mom every Final Fantasy character, and she could pick Spider-Man out of a lineup.
My mom's also not playing Magic the Gathering, so she's not the core audience. So I mean, that's when you start doing like one-to-ones like that, you can kind of see why Final Fantasy. You're going to have players that are fans of 7, they're fans of 8. They might not have liked 9, but they really liked 10. Maybe they only liked 10, but that Magic set has characters from a whole scope of different Final Fantasies. So there's going to be a connection in some capacity, right? Oh, I want to pick up the box because I want to get the Sephiroth cards, or I want to get the Squall card, whatever. Like, you're going to have characters that are people interested in buying specifically because their favorite Final Fantasy is represented in some way, right? Spider-Man is Spider-Man. Like, I'm not a big fan of Spider-Man personally, so I don't care about the set. There's no other connection. There's no other heroes that I would, maybe if you have Carnage tied in, would I have some interest? And maybe I only want to pick up the one Carnage card, and that's it, right? So I think that's part of it too. You have a wider universe when it comes to Final Fantasy. Spider-Man is kind of his own universe if it's just Spider-Man. Now, if it was Marvel, like Marvel Zombies, that's a little different, I think. So, all right, we should probably stop talking about Magic. I'm going to go off on more tangents. Let's go into Chibi Robo. Oh, no, sorry. You wanted to talk one more thing on Magic. The arenas situation. So Spider-Man, because of the way it's licensed, they basically are not able to use the artwork from the Spider-Man cards in Magic the Gathering arenas, and they've had to reskin everything. It's the exact same cards, so there's no lost experience there, but you're getting different cards.
So they're bifurcating the system for the first time ever. So like they've been trying really hard and exclaiming for a really long time that like there will always be like, you know, these are going to be synonymous systems, but now they're going to be different. Like anytime you see an online deck list, you know, there's a chance that one of those 200 cards is in there, and now you need to know which name it is in each system in order to be able to properly, you know, play or understand or whatever. Like it's not going to be a giant issue for like a bunch of people right away, but it just means that forever moving forward, this will be okay, and it will get more complex and more compiling over time. So it's like 10 years from now, after they're just like, yeah, screw it, make a Terminator set in, you know, in regular print, and then online we'll call it March of the Machines 3 or whatever. So you're going to like, they're definitely going to start sacrificing a lot more elements that they claimed they wouldn't in the name of profit margins and everything here. Like it's probably only a matter of time until Magic becomes a much worse system for a lot of these places where they're willing to cave in order to cater to expanding the player base and using these external IPs that they don't actually have any control or say over.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, so it's kind of good for paper players like myself, because if you can only get certain cards in paper, you're going to purchase the paper versions, and that could potentially help grow the game as far as player base in person, right? Versus,
but like the whole thing was, hey, we're making these universes beyond set, and now they're unmaking it. They're just gonna online. You'll be able to get just regular Magic cards.
Yeah, and
in paper you won't. You won't just be able to always play Magic. You have to play whatever BS that they signed up to do an ad for that month.
Yeah.
So like only online will you actually really be able to play the game of Magic intended with like in-universe Magic lore and art.
Yeah. No, and that
like,
sucks.
It's kind of sad.
It is, yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying, that I'm not a huge fan of universes beyond sets in general. I can see where it can help the game grow by bringing out an external audience, but it's not my thing because it's not closely tied to fantasy for a lot of these. Like SpongeBob, I think, was a terrible one that they did. It sold well, right? And for their profit margin, sure, that's great. But in general, I'm not a fan of it. So I think you had brought up to me like, hey, this is, you know, going to be expensive and such. I think Wizards just going to pull let's put a bunch of AI art on some of these cards, throw them into the system and call it a day. And even if they were designing fresh with artists, they already do alternate art for stuff all the time. They probably got a crap ton of stuff cooked up and ready to go that they could just put in place. So I don't necessarily think that it's going to cost them a ton of money to make this like,
they're paying
change.
Twice as much. Like if they're not skimping out,
Depends
they paid
on how,
somebody to draw the Spider-Man one, and now they're paying somebody to draw the non-Spider-Man one.
Depends.
Write new flavor text, write new like this and that.
It depends. Is that person contracted and has, you know, a salary of Wizards of the Coast, or are they freelance? I mean, those are factors you have to put in too, right? Like if I've got a freelance artist, yeah, he's going to charge me X amount per piece of art that's done, and there's a certain type of, you know, expenditure that gets tied up with that. But if I have somebody under salary, it's, hey, I need you to
assume that it's more than they planned on spending originally.
Yeah.
Like, originally they wanted to just secure those rights and go that direction, and now they can't, so they got to go another direction. So that's just more money that it's going to cost them, and ultimately probably cost us.
They may have already factored this in a long time ago. I mean, that would have probably been involved in the contracting process, I would imagine. So,
Who knows?
and if it wasn't, it's something that they're going to be considering moving forward with. So, yeah. All right. Chibi Robo. So, Plug into Adventure. This was developed by Skip Ltd. It was published by Nintendo. It was designed by Kenichi Nishi and Hiroshi Moriyama. I actually got those without hyphens in there to help me out. It was released in February of 2006. It is a platform adventure game. You do not have a reception here, so I imagine there was not a general reception on the game. Right.
So the reception actually is pretty good. It's got a good range of scores between like 5 and 8 out of 10, but mostly positive.
Okay, cool. And I would actually probably agree with that overall. You know, yeah. So the game itself, you are basically putting the player in control of a tiny battery-powered robot that does housework for humans. The objective is to become a top-ranked Super Chibi Robo in the world, accumulating happy points and gaining collectibles throughout based on deeds that you are doing for the family and various toys in the Sandersons' home. So it's really just kind of picture yourself into like a Toy Story situation is kind of how I would put it, right?
Except they know you're doing it.
They know you're doing it, but they don't know that other toys can talk and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you find that out as well. So I think it's like Toy Story meets, I don't know.
Pikmin.
Yeah, Pikmin. There you go.
Well, maybe not Pikmin because you're not really controlling other things.
No,
I don't know. It's a fun game. So you're this little robot and you got to run around the house and like clean up and do little chores and help out. It's not an easy enough game to get a sense of in the amount of time we usually play. So I watched a video. Well, so a lot of the game is timing. It's about like certain events can only happen at certain times of days and stuff. So you kind of do a lot of work at certain times and have to wait for triggers to come up at other times. So the game is classic GameCube kind of game where like they were being fun and experimental, and it's like a little bit weird in that way where it's like, all right, you might have 10 minutes that you have for this mission, but you're going to do everything you need to do in 3 minutes and then you need to wait for nighttime. So it's like the game wants you to use that extra time to go and explore and see this like quirky house and, you know, try to get like extra points and really get to know the space. It kind of reminds me in a sense of like just like Animal Crossing in that way on the GameCube, where it was like there was stuff to do, but there was also a lot of just kind of like, you know, find your own fun and run around. And I feel like the GameCube era has a lot of those games that look and feel a certain way that give me that same kind of similar vibe. And this is one I definitely never really played. I don't even know if I really heard much about this game until I was watching Scott the Woz on YouTube. He talks relentlessly about the Chibi Robo series. So that was kind of my first big introduction, and it's a pricey game.
Yeah, it's about what, 200 something bucks. We'll get into in a moment, but yeah, I mean the game itself, it's quirky, it's fun, it's got its share of like so I was going to say it reminds me of Incredible Crisis, but the director was involved in Incredible Crisis on the PS1. So it's just got a lot of like weird, funky stuff going on. The characters all have big heads and, you know, just kind of do that Nintendo babble that kind of goes to subtext and such. So, but I agree with you, like overall, for me, the controls are a little clunky in my experience in what I was doing. I don't know if maybe my controller was bad, but it just felt a little clunky, but the overall gameplay was fun. I mean, it's time-based, like you said, right? So there are certain things that you can do, and once it hits daytime or morning or night ends, you go back to your like little Chibi Robo station to charge up and save and such, and get ready for the next day and next tasks that are happening. So that's a cool component. I do like that it's timed in the sense too of your battery. So as you progress in the game, you get increased battery charge, which allows you to go out much longer. There are plugs throughout the house so you can recharge really quick. I wish all my devices charged as fast as Chibi Robo. And then you have Television, who's supporting you along the way. Just various characters built into this world. Yeah, but a good one. Based on, you know, you have a whole ton of like little different characters built into it that just make it a all-around fun experience, like in the Sanderson home. One of the things that I enjoyed is like, you find Mr. Sanderson's toothbrush, and It's like, oh yeah, he's not going to need that. Let's just go ahead and start using it for stains to clean up the house. Like little stuff like that. I mean, you gather materials that benefit your character and benefit the Sandersons, and you gain your happy points and such, and move on. So it's one of those games that I feel like you can pick up, you can play for a bit. You don't have to be 100% invested in every moment of it right off the bat. It's just a good time. Like sit back and relax and play some Chibi Robo.
Yeah, and I'm always a sucker for being like tiny in a big regular environment like that. It's fun to just like be able to navigate around. I think there's like a lot of like costumes or something that you unlock because like I died falling off of something and then it respawned me and I have like my arm in a cast and I'm all bandaged up and it says you can go in and like take that off. So I wonder if like you unlock a bunch of different like cosmetic things to change up your appearance or something. I didn't really notice anything else yet.
Yeah, I didn't really notice anything else on it either. But let's get into some brass tacks here in the game. So complete in box, we're looking at $215.75. It peaked at $260 back in August of 2022. As we know, everything spiked at that point. It is trending down in price, which is nice to see. A loose copy will run you $150. That peaked at $227 back in June of 2023. That price is trending up, so probably getting kind of leveled out with the complete in box here somewhat. You can get on digital console. It'll be on the GameCube for Nintendo Switch Online.
When it comes out for the Switch 2.
And it'll be on the Switch 2. And of course, there are other means to play this game if you wanted to. Yeah, I would say it is obviously inflated. I never feel like a game that is, in this case, almost 4 times its value from when it came out is worth it. Even if you factor in inflation, this is not, staying within that within the confines of that. So, yeah, I would say it's inflated, but it is a good game. I did enjoy it. If you have it and you've never touched it, it's definitely worth trying. Or Nintendo Switch Online, give it a shot when it's out on there.
Yeah, so, definitely a fun game. Definitely something that a lot of people are clamoring for more. I believe that they're making like a spiritual successor game to Chibi Robo that should be pretty interesting. And then, if there's really good reflections on like Switch Online, like player base, who knows what Nintendo might bring back on Switch 2. Maybe we'll see more Chibi Robo in the future.
Yeah, maybe so. But for our next few games, we had called out we're going to be playing the most expensive GameCube games, right? So, or some of the most expensive. So don't have our list yet. We'll go ahead and get that cooked up during the weekend.
I think one that I was looking at on there that I definitely want to try out is the Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness.
Oh, I got that one
up there. Yeah,
I got that one. Yeah, that'll be a good one to try out. There's the.
And then we'll come up with a couple others and post them.
Yeah, there's a few others that are apparently pretty good too, even that are high priced like that. So, yeah, more to come. But until then, this has been episode 339 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.